Hi, James Gurney here in Hyde Park, New York. I like this old storefront, real typical American Main Street architecture. It's actually a converted firehouse, the Eagle Fire and Rescue. I set up my easel on top of a camera tripod at standing height, and that's where I attach my sketchbook with clips. The sketchbook is watercolor paper primed with an orange layer of casein, very thin layer. Casein is a milk-based paint. You could also use acrylic gouache. I'm drawing the perspective using a pencil and starting to lay in some of the color over the casein. So that orange color is going to show through the transparent layers of paint. Using a limited palette of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and white on a warm underpainting. I've also got some cerulean blue deep and some alizarin crimson, which I'll need to get that brick color on the left side. Here I'm glazing with a reddish brown color over that orange underpainting. I want to get this whole sidewall painted in one pass. That's why I haven't drawn the windows in detail yet. Now speeding it up a little bit, you can see I'm putting in some of the darks. Some of the darks across the street look pretty dark, but I'm not going to use black on my palette. You can mix something pretty close to a black with those two colors, ultramarine and burnt sienna, but I don't want it to be all the way to black because there's a lot of illuminated air between the building and me. Now I can start mixing some white to paint the sky. Now a blue sky over an orange underpainting looks kind of neat. I'm using a big flat brush, and I have a milky consistency of white and blue mixed together. It's okay if I paint a little past the edge that I've drawn, because I can always come back and paint the top of the building over the sky once the sky dries. Same goes for this area behind the trees. I can paint over what I had started, and when it dries, paint the trees over the sky. This 1902 firehouse was designed by architect William Beardsley, and it replaces an earlier firehouse which burned down. Actually, it was burned by an arsonist, ironically, who chained the old hand pumper fire engines together so they couldn't be rescued. He was sent to Sing Sing prison. And William Beardsley actually designed Attica State Prison as well. The building once had a belfry which has been removed. And at one time, the firemen had a special code of auditory signals to say which street had the emergency, so firemen would have a head start getting there. If you look just to the right of the sketchbook, you can see reflected in the mirror, the rearview mirror, is my wife Jeanette, who's sitting inside the car painting the same scene. I'm not really satisfied with the perspective of this picture. I've got the 2-point perspective, going back to vanishing points, but it really should be 3-point perspective because it's a low eye level, and those verticals are converging upward towards a vanishing point way up above the picture. There's no right or wrong here. You could make the verticals vertical here, but I just want to make it look more like an upshot. Also, the sky is a little too dark and too blue. It really should be hotter and lighter and warmer. So I've mixed a very opaque, two colors actually, one for each of these flat brushes. One's a warmer white almost, and the other is a very light, cool gray. I also want to repaint the left-hand side of the building to make it a little darker and a little cooler. The reason is the sun is closer to setting and it's no longer shining directly on that red brick surface to the left side of the building. I've mostly covered that warm underpainting in the upper part of the picture, except for that little warm glow through the windows on the far right of the picture, which is a backlit poster in the window display. With a small round brush, I'm going all through, doing the trees, window details, the cars in the distant parking lot. And now I want to paint that road surface to be brighter and also cooler, which means working quickly over that underpainting to cover it with a semi-opaque layer of lighter, cooler paint. By using the paint more thickly in the edge of the flat brush, I can get that bright, warm sidewalk that's catching the light. The curb and the sidewalk are a very thin stripe. I use a ruler to get straight lines because there along the road it's critical to get those lines straight. Then I can go in and paint the details of the entrance. Now the old doorways that once were used for fire engines have been filled in and made into regular doorways and windows. The building is now used for office space and apartments. I'll put myself standing there next to this old car dealership, now abandoned. This is probably a story that's happened to a lot of old firehouses around America. They got converted into something else when the new fire engines are just too big to fit in the old doorways. The light post, restate these windows. And then the wires going across the whole scene. And the last thing I need to do is paint the light on the stones on that building on the right, and then paint the chimney on that dark building on the right, and the cornice above that. So I'm inside the picture and I think I'll go get a cup of coffee. Nice hanging out with you guys. Well, you've arrived at a point of decision. You can go to my website, or you can subscribe to my channel, or here's a video you might enjoy, and then there's a playlist with more like this one.